what are some of the rules to vaccination that you follow that you recommend?
My approach to vaccines is to start at least when the child is 24 months and not younger due to the blood-brain barrier. Never give more than vaccine at a time. Don't ever give a vaccine to a child who is sick. Make sure the vaccines are thermosul-free, which is mercury. Supplement a child with extra cod oil, vitamin C and B12 before and after the vaccine. And MMR should not be given before 36 months. If a child has had a bad reaction to any single one vaccine, stop, that's a sign, and get a medical exemption. The first few years of a child's life are vital. What you put in is going to be their long-term health, like years later. So that's why in the first few years, like from baby to toddlers, you can get away with it and you can implement whatever you think is safe and nutritious for them to eat and set up their immunity for lifelong. You could do that. And I know it's hard. I know it's easier to just give a pouch or something else or snacks and chips. I know it's easier and I know it's more accessible. But if you really focus on the gut health and the child's diet the first few years, you're going to have a much healthier child, an adult down the road, versus when you don't do that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2411 podcast. Today, we have my dear friend, Yuliya Shik. She's a registered nurse and a holistic coach. She's taken this very interesting and personal path into holistic medicine. There seems to be a general trend in Western society for a holistic approach to healthcare. Recently, I've listened to Kelly and Casey Means on the Joe Rogan podcast. That was very enlightening. And we hope to hear about your path to holistic medicine. How did you make that transition from a Western educated healthcare professional to a very, I don't know if it's different or it's a different outlook on healthcare?
It's a completely different outlook on healthcare. So I was a Western nurse for 10 years. And I started transitioning to Western medicine in 2020 when I was pregnant with my first child. And I had to face one of the most important decisions as a parent, which was whether or not to vaccinate my child. And I started doing research and I was just mind boggled by all of the different things that I came across. And I said, there has to be a different way because it didn't make sense. The CDC schedule to me did not make sense. And when I was a student in nursing school, all we had to do was learn the actual schedule, like at 2 months, at 4 months, at 6 months, which vaccine is the baby getting. We never read the vaccine inserts. We never looked at the side effects. We never looked at what is it that we need to do if there's vaccine injury. And so I started deeply looking into that. And
so you said that was with your first child?
With my first child,
So
yes.
the first child went through a series of vaccines before you started noticing that, or like?
No, I was pregnant and I started looking into vaccines, planning ahead. And then when I saw the schedule, it didn't make sense.
Like the first hepatitis B shot?
Yeah. Why? If the mother is hepatitis B negative, why are we giving the baby a shot?
So I didn't notice that with my first child, my daughter, but both of them got it. But with my son, when he was born, they give the vaccine right away. And then she's like, oh, here's the paper. He got the hepatitis B. And I'm like, you didn't even ask.
They didn't ask.
You know, like it wasn't like, at least inform me before.
And that's what informed consent is. And that's what I work with on my patients. If whether or not they want to vaccinate or not, it's up to them. And I'm going to support them in any decision they make. But
I mean, based on everything that we hear today is the hepatitis B, you can test that. You can test the mother to make sure that the baby doesn't.
Absolutely.
Or the second thing is it's sexually transmitted, which is we're hoping a baby's not going to have to deal with that thing.
We're hoping.
So why do we? Yeah. The last thing I heard, and I don't know how true it is, but the amount of mercury inside of that vaccine is for like a 250 pound male to absorb.
It's way more than the CDC recommends per body weight. It's a lot more.
What shocked me is why didn't they even ask?
Right. So that's something that
it was like, here, you got it.
No information. They didn't give you any information either. They didn't tell you what the side effects are.
Nope.
Yeah.
So you don't need consent to have, once your child is born, they vaccinate.
They pretty much do it. Just it's like, they just have to do it. It's one of their goals when the mother.
A procedure. Probably.
Yeah. It's just one of the things they have to do. It's an intervention they have to do. And it's very rare that they have a mother who's giving birth
Who's informed?
Who's informed and who's going to say, let them know in advance, hey, I don't want any vaccines. I don't want the eye cream on my baby. And that's something I did 2 times in 2 different hospitals in New York. And the first time they were giving me a really hard time, they called Child Protective Services on me.
Wow.
They made a huge, big deal out of it because I declined the vitamin K, I declined the eye ointment and the Hep B. And, I just continued to tell them that I know what I'm doing.
But what's the official procedure? Aren't you allowed to decline?
You are. You are, and I did. But they give you a very hard time because you're messing with their statistic.
Right.
So
And they also have to cover their asses, right?
Right. Yeah.
From
they have to do their job.
Absolutely. Because if they don't, right, there could be a liability on their behalf. So that's so you were able to decline it, and
I was able to decline. I had a hard time doing it, but I just, continued to stand my ground and tell them that I know what I'm doing and I'm a nurse, I'm educated. Even if I wasn't a nurse, I'm educated is enough. So
right. As far as the schedule, the vaccine schedule, do you have any perspective on what should be delayed, or what would be your ideal approach to the vaccine schedule? Maybe some things that...
My ideal approach is to wait until the child is at least 24 months. That's when the blood-brain barrier starts to close and not as many toxins are entering the brain, basically. So I would start at 24 months and just go slowly from there, 1 vaccine at a time, and making sure that MMR is given no earlier than 3 years old.
Partially with my daughter, we had an option where a doctor was, I guess maybe, I don't know if he believed in what he was doing, but he would at least make it, he would be okay with doing it for us. And so he spread out the vaccines. Instead of giving like 5 vaccines in 1 shot, he would spread them out. But then I heard another thing about it, that when you spread them out, the dose is different for each and every single vaccine. So you're actually getting more of the whatever it is you're getting more of it per shot instead of less.
I don't think that's true.
I mean, I don't know. That's
I don't
what
think
I heard.
so. You either have these, they either come one by one, you just draw them up in a syringe, or they have the concoction where it's like 5 different vaccines just in 1 syringe. And the way that doctors get moms and dads to do it is they tell them, oh, it's less pokes for the baby. We're just going to poke them once instead of 5 times. Just go with it. But that concoction of 5 things in 1, that has a lot of mercury. It has a lot of aluminum. It has a lot of adjuvants. And you can expect to have a higher adverse reaction from that 1 shot containing 5 vaccines in it.
Was it you getting pregnant and having a baby that transformed the outlook on how you want to pursue it?
Pretty much. I started researching while I was pregnant, and then from vaccines, it just went to everything else. And then I started taking classes and learning holistic nursing and homeopathy, and I just developed this big interest for it, and I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's what I continue to do with
And it
Cheer.
probably completely went against what you learned in school for as being a nurse.
100%. It's two different worlds. The approach is completely opposite. Whereas in Western medicine, we're looking at different body parts and we're not treating the body as a whole. And in holistic medicine, we're treating the body as a whole. So if you have symptoms, if you have heart symptoms and your leg hurts and you have bad vision, we're going to try and connect that to one problem. We're not going to give you eye drops and medication for your heart and then pain and anything else. We're going to try and figure out what the root cause is and how we can make it better.
And is there some kind of formal education or certification that, medical professionals who want to have the holistic approach, they adhere to, or this is just basically very personal?
No. We take classes. There's different programs, different classes that are being offered either as a nutritional coach or holistic coach or an integrative nurse. So there's different paths you can take. The knowledge is, varies depending on what kind of program you do and, what kind of patients you want to work with.
I have almost like a double vision on this thing. It's like on one hand, so personally, my first doctor that, other than a pediatrician, was she was very into the whole holistic thing. As she had a bunch of awards and everything. And every time I would come to her, I'd be like, I'm having a flu. I have a fever. I need to get back up, and I need to be me. And she's like, no problem. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to get a tea. You're going to put some honey into it. You're going to put some raspberry into it and a shot of cognac, so it dilates.
Cognac?
And you're going to drink that 3 times a day. And like, she would tell me this and I'm like, great. It did help with like I felt better, but it didn't cure me. And so she was very reluctant to give me antibiotics. I would almost have to force her like, hey, I hear you. Prescribe me antibiotics. I need to go to work, In many things, she helped my father with a lot of things. So there's that side that I agree with. It's like, great, let's try it. But then I think we live in such busy lives where it's like you don't have the time to drink that tea 3 times a day for the next 2 weeks to get yourself better. You just need to go. You need to work. So you take that antibiotic. And on the other hand, I'm completely against taking like antibiotics all the time. Like I take once in 2 years when it's really bad, or something. But like I know people who take antibiotics on everything, and that I know that it hurts you as well, metabolically.
Mm-hmm. So the thing with antibiotics is, okay, sometimes there could be instances where you need to take them, like, if, let's say your eardrum perforated and you're bleeding and you have so much pain, I'm going to suggest antibiotics. Absolutely.
So you're not against?
I'm not against, but it has to be in a situation where you really need them. If the ear is just a little red, I'm not going to suggest antibiotics. I'm going to suggest we do some garlic oil in the ear. So it depends on the situation. If it's sometimes there are certain diseases that could need antibiotics for years. There are such conditions, and some people may not want to take that route because of how it harms the gut and all the gut dysbiosis and SIBO that they may get and the microbiome. It's really not so simple to fix it back up
and
again.
Now what we know about the gut being related to your brain and how it affects it. So now you're killing all these good bacteria that are affecting getting you depressed, and now you're sitting.
Yes.
You got to run to the bathroom and you're depressed at the same time.
They often actually in Western medicine they prescribe antidepressants for IBS because
that's interesting.
Because the gut issues cause the serotonin levels to deplete, and then you need antidepressants. So we've known the gut as our second brain for a while. Yeah, it's just
recently that I've been listening to. Yeah.
It's just resurfacing now, but we've known.
Right. But it's just the siloed approach has historically been implemented for a long time. From what I've heard, there was something called the Flexner Report. And that was John D. Rockefeller's personal lawyer who written up guidance for medical schools. Right. And that was 1909, I believe. Right. Yep. And John D. Rockefeller was a huge investor, earliest investor in this whole pharmaceutical industry. And he wanted to, the easiest way to monetize is to silo medical treatment. Therefore, you have something for every single particular issue, disease that you have or condition. And that has been the standard for some time. I don't know. That's the case.
That has been the case since, what year did you mention?
1909.
1909. That has been the case since 1909. They haven't changed a thing. And this foundation actually is the foundation that gave the medical schools their curriculum.
Right.
It all stems from this foundation. And we need to change it up. We need to add things, take things out. I mean, there's definitely things that aren't working and things that we can put in there that would work or that have been working. It's time to revamp those medical books.
The statistics for what it is, it seems like everything that's chronic is growing actually. The 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. The 50% of American adults have type 2 diabetes. That's from Kelly Means mentioned that statistics, although the CDC says it's about 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes, and most have type 2. And it was 1% in 1950. Alzheimer's and dementia is growing astronomically. Young dementia diagnosis has increased 3 times since 2012. 1 in 2 Americans are expected to be diagnosed with cancer. Young adult cancers are up 79%. Autism rates are 1 in 36 children.
And was it like 1 in 10 back in the 50s?
And 1 in 150 in 2000 only as far. So like these statistics, it's, I don't know.
We're definitely doing something wrong, right?
Right. And the infertility rates are growing through the roof as well.
Yeah. And this is all due to metabolic dysfunction. And Casey Means actually talks about this in her book. The numbers are definitely rising. We have a sedentary lifestyle. We're not getting good food. We're not getting clean air. There's too much EMF. There's all these medications for every problem that you can possibly have. We're just not living a healthy lifestyle. And this is definitely increasing all of these rates, for sure.
So is there a particular time that that made you make the change?
So it started out with me researching about the vaccines, and then from there,
You dove into the rabbit hole.
I dove into multiple rabbit holes, and some of them I wish I never went down, because everything I've learned, it became part of me. And then there's some people, when you talk to them, that haven't woke up yet,
Yeah.
they look at me like I'm crazy. They don't understand what I'm talking about. I'll talk to them about parasite cleanses, and they're just like, "What are you talking about? Those don't exist." And I'm like, "Yes, they do. Take this tincture and you'll see them."
There was a
You know?
recent video about this like little pink jelly thing that apparently comes from raw fish. So if you like sushi, you probably got it in you. Most of the time they say it's not active and it doesn't really do anything to you, but sometimes it can cause really big problems, in which case you need to take some medicine. But yeah,
Right.
I mean,
So
listen, we're exposed
there's
to
a
it all the
difference
time.
between acutes and, like, if you have something acute, then you go and treat it in a traditional way, right? But if
Yes.
it's something that's coined as chronic, right, there are probably other approaches that you could try first, right? And I think that's your perspective on this.
Yes, absolutely. If there's an emergency or you require surgery, absolutely go to that hospital, and Western medicine is here to save you. But if you have a metabolic dysfunction, or if you have eczema, if you have gut issues, Lyme, if you're susceptible to mold, just all these different issues, then definitely holistic offers a different approach. It may not be take a course of antibiotics for 1 month. It may be some supplements, and there are some things you're going to have to make time for. But at the end of the day, you won't be destroying your gut with the supplements.
Yeah.
And you're going to increase your immunity, which is the most important thing.
And everything stems from that, as far as I understand.
Yes.
Immunity. And you have to
Gut.
keep it right.
Gut is immunity.
Yeah. To each his own. I mean, look, disclaimer, nobody's saying don't go to the doctor and get antibiotics if you have a serious problem. However, you can't dismiss this whole holistic thing as well, because there's certain things that, you look at certain people and they don't get sick as often. It could be genes. It could be also their lifestyle, right? Like, as a kid, man, I got sick once in 5 years. But when I did, it was horrible. And so there has to be something there. Like I said about that doctor that I went to, she did help. Don't get me wrong. It's just certain timelines in your life. You can't wait, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
until you fully fix it. We know someone who had a nasal infection repeatedly. Like, it would just go away and it would come right back. It would go away and it would come right back, and went through antibiotics. It just comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So they took the holistic approach, and finally no longer having that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just dismiss it. You can't just say
No.
like, oh, this thing is, voodoo magic. You know what I mean? Let's sing Kumbaya and hope it fixes itself. It's not. And then, like, so you had you had your baby, and then you went down all these rabbit holes, and you decided that this is something that you want to, I guess, investigate. And so how did you pivot to it? Now, is everything organic in the house? Everything
is organic in the house. Everything comes from a farm. But again, this took 5-6 years in the making. It wasn't just like I went cold turkey and stopped with all the previous habits. This took a while. And that's my advice. Little by little, don't go cold turkey. Don't, just take it slow. Everything's organic. Everything's from farms. We don't drink from plastic. Though we have a water filter, osmosis water filter. Cotton, no polyester. Obviously, we try to stay away from medications, from big pharma medications, as much as we can. Sugar. Sugar's a big thing. I try not to give my kids any sugar. That's a big one. Processed foods. It's really hard to avoid it, but that's a big thing. Processed and ultra processed.
It's so hard today because of our high-paced life. So I try. We have a Trader Joe's next to our house. And so they do a good job. Not like, it's not everything is perfect. Whole Foods, for us at least, it's in Jersey. So it's like, when you need groceries. Oh, you need to cook something. Tomorrow we have school, we have work, we have this. It's like, I'm not driving to Jersey to get organic noodles, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot. And I think that the reason a lot of people that would maybe even want to go organic completely, it's just you don't have the time to do it all. So I guess you do the best you can.
You do the best you can. You try to get as much sunlight a day as you possibly can, as much movement as you can. Turn your phones off 2 hours before you go to sleep. Like, don't, the blue light energy, like, it really does affect our sleep. And there's just so many little steps that you can take, drinking more water. And
so what does your day look like?
My day. I mean, there's a lot going on right now in my day. I do a lot of biohacking during the day and
What is
during the
that?
week.
It's like a very popular term now, this biohacking thing. So if you explain, it
So-
definitely helps.
It's biohacking is anything that you're just doing to hack into your health. So whether that's taking supplements or working out or doing something like hyperbaric oxygen or Rife therapy, coffee enemas, those are all biohacking. It's everything that's getting your body to be in a better place. So I do a lot of those things for myself. I work from home, so I have the comfort of doing all of that. And I do saunas almost every day, red light therapy.
Best sauna in Brooklyn recommendation, real quick. Where do you go?
I go to the Path Center. They have the hyperbaric oxygen there, and they have the infrared sauna.
Thanks, Alex.
I just plugged somebody.
Yeah,
I know.
great.
I was curious, right? Sorry, so go on. Yeah, interrupted.
So I do a lot of those things. I'm trying to get better with my health. So those are just some things I incorporate. And then, of course, when I'm working with patients, I give the referral and I tell them you might benefit from Rife therapy, or you might benefit from colonics, or you might benefit from exercise or yoga, or seeing someone who's going to help you with your emotions.
So colonics was very popular back like a decade ago. Right now all I hear about is that red light therapy. All these machines are being sold. They're like, oh, you don't even need the machine. Here's the light bulb. Just put it in. You're going to be in front of it, and you're going to get some red light therapy. It's probably a scam, but I'm just saying overall. Like, so what's that all about?
I mean, the red light therapy, it has different uses. Like if I have pain, I use it. I use it for my face to prevent wrinkles, to have smoother skin. It's supposed to help overall, just bettering.
And you do it every day?
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes.
How do you gauge an effect? And obviously, holistic approach and
You're talking about the wrinkles?
like any of these.
You look at your peers. It's like if they have more wrinkles than you do, it's like that red light is working, bro.
Okay. So with wrinkles, obviously it's hard to gauge it. I can't
Right.
prove to you that red light
Right.
is preventing my wrinkles, but there are certain things, diseases that we can have testing for. So I can run a GI map. That's basically a stool test, and it's going to tell me everything in your gut, everything that's going on, all your microbes, which probiotics you're lacking, which ones you need, what you should take. So we would start off with a GI map, and we would go based on that, we'd work on what needs to get worked on, and then we retest. So therefore, I know it worked because something in the results got better. That's one way you can do testing. Other than that, let's say it's some kind of supplement, like energy supplement, you would just feel it.
So you're basically your own guinea pig, and that's how you help your patients. You've tried this before. It seems like before you tell them, hey, take this, because you know if it works, right?
With a lot of the things,
Yeah.
yes. And the way that I start learning about something new is, I don't know, it just comes into my life and I end up using it, or for me or my kids or my husband. And then I'm like, okay, this really helped. This is what we're going to do. This is the plan. And I just go from there. And I went into some deep rabbit holes because of things that were just happening in my day-to-day life. And I've read about these things on like Facebook and groups or Reddit, like families that had to leave their homes because of mold infestation or having high amount of mold or heavy metals in their body or parasites. So I read about all this, but then it was a completely different thing when my family was facing these different situations. And then, you have to figure it out. You have to just breathe and figure it out. And that's what we're doing.
Do you feel like because you've started researching and, as you said, you went down this rabbit hole, you're noticing these things and you're becoming more conscious and like, well, this is what, right?
I started to become conscious of everything.
Does it take control over your life, or do you think this is like there's a right balance to strike? Because then you end up noticing everything, right?
Well, you have to have your percentage. So you can't be like 100%. I don't think it's possible in today's society to be 100% natural and holistic. Like I would have to live on a farm with like no television,
And grow your own food.
And grow my
your own
own
food.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would
And
have
you
to
have
have
to
a
watch
homestead
what kind of
and homeschool.
what kind of
you know?
industrial area you're living next to, because they're leaking stuff into your soil, which
And
your
no,
food is
and no
growing into.
power lines, none
Right.
of that. So
Right.
What's wrong with the power lines? Is that
EMF, radiation,
I mean,
So-
we're living in it. I would hope that we would adapt to some point. You know what I mean?
It's evolution.
but it takes longer.
The
I
human
understand.
race is dying earlier now.
Yeah,
This is the thing. We're dying earlier now because we've tried to simplify our lives with all these gadgets and all these, processed foods and everything and all these electric cars. I mean,
yeah. I think if you're living in New York, you're not gonna get away from that.
you're not, no. But
You're just gonna have to eat it. Like seriously.
there's too much. We've created too many things to simplify our lives, but what it's really doing is affecting our health negatively. So you can't be 100% and just go back to like homestead and homeschooling, but you can have a 70-30, an 80-20. You can have that balance and find it and utilize it to your best advantage.
I mean, the Amish are doing it. And they
I
have
love
like
the
some of the,
Amish.
I read something, I don't know 100%, but I read something that they have like the lowest autism percentage rates, right? I mean, they're up to something. I could tell you their cottage cheese is great.
Yeah.
Their everything is great. I mean, we go at least once a month to purchase raw dairy from them. And
Amish country?
yes. And I get all of my meat from them.
Really?
Yes. And their diets are good. And you know what? They deworm these animals properly. That's a big thing. And they're not giving them medication to deworm them. They're giving them like natural remedies that they sell themselves also. Like they have this, we bought this, it was last bottle, onion, vinegar, and wormwood, that's anti-parasitic. And you can use that on your salad dressing.
And get rid of the parasites.
From that sushi for $2.50 a roll,
So include the salad with the sushi.
The Amish know, they know what's going on. They get the deal. They're up to date. Yeah.
So what I've also heard, very interesting to hear your take on it, is soon the vegetables that are on the shelves have been out of the soil for so long that all the nutrients are gone, right? So even if you're trying to go the healthier route, eat more vegetables as opposed to whatever else, you're not getting those nutrients from these vegetables that are in your supermarket, right?
That's true. We have to eat a lot more fruits or vegetables than we had in the past. So now I'd have to eat like maybe 5 or 6 oranges to get the vitamin C of one orange like 10 years ago. There's definitely a comparison in the quality of food. But again, we don't have control over everything, right? We can only do so much.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Starve yourself and not eat anything, right?
I mean, mostly you probably take a supplement.
Yeah, but you don't want to be taking too many supplements. You still need nutrition from whole foods. You need micronutrients. You need your minerals. You need your electrolytes. You still need all of that. You can't just be popping supplements all day long.
How are you in juice?
Juicing?
Yeah.
After breakfast?
No, just overall. What do you think about juicing?
After breakfast.
Yeah?
That's my recommendation.
Because I heard that the fruit, it has the fiber in it.
Yes.
Right?
Fiber's good.
Right, but if you are juicing it, there's no fiber included in that sugar water that you're drinking from the juice.
Well, yes and no. Depending on what exactly it is that you're juicing. For example, celery juice.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
I actually heard that's good for skin.
Salad. For what?
For your skin. You do celery juice every day.
It's good for
mixed with
eczema.
something, and
It's good for
skin.
psoriasis. Yeah. It has a lot of benefits.
You add the red lamp to that, you're going to look amazing.
Speaking of diets, so apparently in Europe, for women with infertility issues, they prescribe like 12 weeks of keto diet.
Ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic. Can you talk about it? As opposed to like right away transition to hormonal therapy, they do this first or in supplement, right?
I mean, that's amazing. I wish we were looking at diet over here in the US because every time I've come in with any kind of concern, and diet was never discussed. Nobody's ever asked me, Yuliya, what do you eat? Except for my holistic practitioners. Now, they ask me. That's important to them. But the Western physicians, they don't go over it. And it's such an easy thing to change compared to putting pills and going through treatments. And I wish we paid more attention to that. And hopefully we will soon in the Western world and just talk about simple everyday life and how that affects our health because that does affect our health. And we have to pay attention to those little things.
What are the most common issues that your patients come to you with?
Just different variety of things. Like if they need guidance, if they're pregnant and expecting and they need guidance on what to do when baby comes or which vaccines to give or which ones to delay. I do immune boosting protocols for children, for adults. Eczema, that's a big one that I work with. I have a lot of experience with that. Changing their whole entire lifestyle, just getting into it. People literally book appointments with me to just ask me questions because there's so many things that they're not sure of or confused about. They don't know which supplements to take, and I assist them with that as well. So I'm basically their guide from just getting into the holistic world. And then, of course, if they have specific issues, I could run labs, tests, I can order that, and we can work through it.
You could order that because you're a licensed nurse practitioner, right? Nurse.
Yes, but also the school that I went to, the program that I did, I have access through ordering labs through them. So they support us and allow us to order labs with their assistance. It's like through a website.
Mm-hmm.
So I have access to that. And then, if there's something that I cannot handle or cannot order, I outsource it. I have a lot of doctors, physicians in the holistic world that I would refer, and they would definitely help out.
Is there like it's common collaboration in the community? I think it's more tight-knit, I would assume, because...
I mean, it's not even collaborating.
Yeah.
I sometimes don't even tell the physicians. I just give the patient their information.
Yeah.
I don't even need that personal thing. I don't even need it. It's just, I know I'm helping the patient because I'm giving them someone that I've trusted or I've worked with and giving them the ability to work with them.
Any previous colleagues looking at you like you're crazy?
So maybe a few years ago, especially during COVID, when I was refusing the vaccine and trying to change and tell everyone, don't do it, just wait. We don't have enough studies. Like, take it easy. I got into a bunch of fights with a lot of people. They definitely thought that I was, just not well in the head, whatever. But now things are changing.
Yeah.
And now, if before, when I used to talk in the office about holistic health, like in my regular Western office, when I used to talk about holistic health, people used to look at me very strange and probably think I'm crazy or, possessed by whatever. Now they're asking questions. Now I start talking, they're coming up to me. They're coming up to my desk and they have a bunch of questions. Yuliya, what's this? What's that? What's that? So definitely people are more comfortable with it. And I think that this previous election definitely brought out a lot.
Well, we'll see what he's going to do, right?
Yes, but they brought awareness.
At least they brought
awareness. And that's already such a huge thing, to bring awareness to such a topic that everyone's scared to talk about.
Yeah.
You
remember that picture that came around when Trump and RFK had McDonald's on his plane or whatever. And everybody's like, oh, you know what I mean? And if you listen to RFK, it's like, dude, nobody's talking about don't have McDonald's.
Right.
But the oils or whatever that are used, we can make it more healthier and people can enjoy it. And also, nobody's banning all these things. Like, you need to live your life and enjoy your life, but you just can't do it every day. You have to have a well-balanced diet that is helping you to grow healthy, and from time to time enjoy it, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
These different things.
Absolutely.
And then the same thing is with the vaccines. Listen, there are certain vaccines that have really helped our humanity.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't dismiss these things. You know what I mean?
There's certain ones you should do. Like, let's say if I would be traveling to a country where they still have rates of polio, I would absolutely give that vaccine to my children.
Yeah.
We don't want polio. No, thank you. I mean, we just don't have it in the United States. But if something were to change tomorrow and God forbid, suddenly polio hits, I would take my kids and get vaccinated. Absolutely. So sometimes there's a need for it. But then other times, if there's no need, let's delay, let's wait till later. Let's give the child a chance to build their immunity first before we, go vaccinating them with all these things.
For school, right? If kids are going to school, they don't have a choice.
In New York, they don't have a choice. So New York and a few other states are the only states that don't have religious exemption, although New York did have religious exemption several years ago. I believe we do still have medical exemption, which is great. Thankful for that. But if a child, if you can't, avoid it, what you can do is delay. You can delay and then do them one by one every few months or so, watching closely, monitoring, and detoxing before and after. And then you'd be able to send your child to school by 3.5, 4, or you can, wait till they're 5. It all depends when you want to send them. If the mother has the ability to have the child home with her for the first few years, that's excellent, because we don't have to vaccinate and we don't have to worry about the child being exposed to different germs and viruses when they're at home.
Is that your experience? Is that what you did with?
That was my experience. My older daughter, I kept her home, still keeping her home until she's a certain age. And we're just going to ease into it. We're not rushing. I wanted to get to know my children's immunity before I gave them injections. And I'm glad I did that, because my second daughter ended up having eczema. And she wasn't born with eczema. She didn't come out of the womb with it. It developed around 2 or 3 months. And I'm glad that I didn't give her a vaccine at that time, because then in my head, I would have thought, oh, she has eczema from the vaccine.
Yeah.
This way, I know that I knew something was going on a deeper level, and that led me into testing her and finding out what's going on with her gut. She had leaky gut. She had dysbiosis. She had food sensitivities up the wazoo. When we started, solids at 6 months, she was very limited. There was maybe like 6 or 7 things that she was allowed to have. She was reacting to everything. And I took her to the top allergists in Manhattan. And this was already a little bit into the journey where I had ordered the GI map for her. I found out that she had all these issues and I started treating her holistically. We did parasite cleanses on her. We did a heavy metal cleanse on her at 9 months, but small doses, very carefully, you know.
What is it they give? What is it like?
It's tinctures like wormwood. What else did I give her? Charcoal, because it's a binder. It binds to toxin. And some other tinctures, humic and fulvic acid we did fish oil. So we did just like a variety of supplements, and her gut had already started to improve. Her eczema was getting better, but I had that appointment and I went to it anyways. And when I was talking to doctors and telling them that we're doing an elimination diet and we're avoiding XYZ because I know it still flares her up, they told me there's no connection between the food and her eczema, zero. They told me to just feed her everything. And when I told them I did a GI map, they had no idea what that was. They completely disregarded it.
That was a specialist for allergies.
Yeah,
right?
Specialist for allergists in New York City. And I expected that to be the result because it's a Western doctor. But ironically enough, in that group in New York City, they had a doctor who was part of their group. And she was a Chinese doctor, and she left to do Chinese medicine in a holistic way. And they know her, and they know that she has great success with treating kids with eczema and allergies, but they deny it. And when you're sitting there helpless in front of this doctor, you know, your child has eczema all over, and you can't feed them half the menu. Instead of telling me there's somebody out there that studies holistic medicine who used to be part of our group that we know that may be able to help you, instead of giving this information to patients, they disregard. And they made me feel like I was a crazy mom. And, you know, it was sad. And they wanted me to do steroids and all these different things. And
steroids is a big thing, right? It helps, but it works.
But it's not getting to the root cause, right? It's not treating the dysbiosis.
So this consciousness about, you know, holistic medicine, it might be just catching a trend in the West. You know, I've had some time where I lived in China. That's at the forefront of society. There's a division. There's Eastern medicine, Zhongyao, and then there's Western medicine. And everybody understands.
What do
you call that? Xiyao, I don't know. Right. So, and they know that there's different treatments, and
they know,
right. And then if you take the Eastern approach, it is going to take longer, and you have to be patient, but it's not chemically involved. But
how many, like, for example, like
so
she just told her story, right, where she didn't get the results that she wanted, right? Have you ever gone to a doctor and actually resolved the problem that you had? Resolved it
without band-aiding it.
I don't. Sometimes I go and
I know you don't have many problems. I understand that. You're a healthy guy.
I try
to.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of going to doctors. It's
Neither am I.
It's not a solution. I understand.
Where'd that come from?
I just, first of all, once again, I may be wrong. It might be some sort of paranoia. I think like if I go, they'll find something, whether I have it or not. Like I know
if you're looking for something, you'll find something.
If you're looking for something, you'll find something.
You'll find, yes.
But thankfully, some of the doctors I came across, they actually like alleviated my concerns. Like you got nothing, you're fine, right?
Right.
But that's my own personal thing. That's not something that you should take guidance.
I think
I'm not
that
a healthcare professional.
A lot of people look for alternative ways when they don't get answers from. And if they're a little bit awoke, I guess,
yes.
Right? Because, like, I had a personal experience. Here's the thing. About 2012 or something like that, I started having a very sharp pain in my left lower abdomen. And I just didn't, like, it went through my leg. I thought it was a nerve thing. I went to about 9 or 10 specialists. Okay. I went through the whole thing. I had CAT scans, MRIs, like I had everything because I was thinking like, you know how you get when you have that, you don't know what's going on. You get depressed, you're starting losing weight. That's it. I have cancer. I'm dying. Like you get scared. And so the last doctor which probably going back to it now, should have been the first doctor, but that was my last doctor, was a gastroenterologist. So they probed me from every part of that they could. Okay. And here I am sitting in his office. And he comes back all probed out, violated in many ways. And he comes back with the results and he goes, "You're good." I mean, I'm like, "What do you mean you're good? I'm in pain. Like I feel this. I'm not making this shit up. Like I feel this. I'm in pain." He goes, "Yeah, but we didn't find anything." I'm like, "Okay." So I had a CAT scan. I had this. They actually sent me to a chiropractor that hit me in that spot he said, oh, it's scar tissue. Sometimes organs get scar tissue. I never came back. He's like, you got to come back 10 times. I'm like, that's not happening, bro. But anyway, so the last doctor, nothing, clean. I'm like, so what am I going to do? He's like, I can refer you to a pain management. And that's when I had like that awakened moment. I'm like, so what are you going to do? You're just going to put a Band-Aid on a problem?
Pretty much.
Like, you didn't figure out what the problem was. And the thing that's I guess, that awakes you is when I figured it out myself. What I did was I just simply changed everything. Like, if I would have cold cuts in the morning with bread, I started having cheese instead of white bread, rye bread. You know, I changed my whole diet. And within 2 months, everything went away. And that's when you're sitting there. Changed my whole diet. And within 2 months, everything. Specialists that couldn't figure this out. So when you have that bad experience, is when you start looking at alternative things. And now today, any kind of pain I get in my body, I give it 2 weeks. I'm like, we're going to change things up. First of all, I start looking, what did I change? You know, what was different? The other thing I used to, you talk about eczema a lot. So I had crazy rashes on my hands. And I was like, they just started popping up. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? I went to to get tested for allergies. And they gave me a report. You're allergic to cockroaches, cow, dust. I'm like, you want to put me in a bubble? Like, I'm not going to be able to live. Oh, allergic to dogs, cats. I'm like, I have both. I'm like, what do you? So I sat back. That was the second example that I'm like, I sat back and I'm like, what did I change? And during that time, I was taking real estate classes, but I was also working and I didn't have time to eat. So I would go into a vending machine and buy myself a Red Bull and a Snickers.
Your diet.
Three times a week. I'm like, oh, that's what I put into my diet that I didn't have before. Took it out, gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, then you know what? This is what differs me from, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm just saying this is what did it for me. I'm like, you know what? You guys don't know. You should go get a blood test, know what's going on. And, you know, I guess hopefully get the minerals that you're missing or vitamins that you're missing and go like that. Not to say that if there are serious problems, you do need help. You know, I'm not, you know, discouraging from that.
What was it with the youngest daughter? What would it turn out to be?
She just had gut issues, dysbiosis, and when I did the heavy metal cleanse and the parasite cleanse, her eczema cleared up by 85%, and she's only now sensitive to 2 different food items versus like the 25 that we started out with.
But you said like what 80% cleared up?
Yeah, about 80-85%
so what did you,
cleared up.
Can you talk about what you changed? In terms of like diet?
So unlike what the Western physician recommended, which was to continue to give her everything, even though she's being inflamed from it. So I cut out everything that I felt she was sensitive to. And the way I did that was I ran a food sensitivity test. I took a little bit of blood. I pricked her finger, took a little bit of blood, sent it out to a lab. It was a test that I ordered myself. And I avoided every single item on that test. We started with that. That was our elimination diet. And while doing that elimination diet, I was doing a protocol for her, which involved the charcoal, the scutellaria, which is like a antibacterial, antiviral. And then we did the parasite cleanse, the tinctures on that.
Yeah.
And within 2 to 3 weeks, she cleared
Were there
up.
any particular foods that spiked it? Or
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dairy, gluten, citrus, beef.
Why is there such sensitivity to gluten?
The way that it's made in the U.S., if you go to Europe and you get bread from there, it's not going to have so much gluten.
Yeah.
The pasta's not going to have as much gluten as here. Like, our gluten in the U.S. is just terrible. It's literally poisoning our stomach. Whether you have eczema, allergies or not, it's poisoning our stomach. It's eating up the lining of our stomachs. You know, you go to a supermarket and there's almost nothing healthy, maybe like 15%. I have to walk through each aisle and like find selective items.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just be grabbing things. You have to look at the ingredients, and there's very little healthy items in majority of the stores.
Even in good supermarkets too.
Whole Foods is an exception,
Yeah.
but the problem with Whole Foods is that now they're doing bioengineered food. I'm talking about the breads, the cupcakes, all the cookies, everything cooked there has bad ingredients now. So what you're really limited to purchasing at Whole Foods now is just fruits, vegetables, meat, if it's organic, grass-fed.
Did you see that Bill Gates thing that you spray on the food and it keeps the fruit
Appeal.
fresher? Appeal. There you go. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think Whole
Did you see
Foods
it?
uses Appeal, but
No.
there are stores that do. And you have to have a list of those stores and
Listen,
just
man, I don't know if
avoid
it's
them.
real, but the fruits and stuff, they become like rubbery and stuff.
It is real.
It's like,
I've
it's
seen
crazy.
it. I've seen it. I had an avocado and I was going like this to it and it just wasn't breaking. And I'm like, okay, this has a peel on it.
Wow.
But not all supermarkets sell appeal. You have to do your research and go where they don't. But it's real.
There's this app, Yuka. I know you think I'm plugging everything, but
You can't. Yeah, you
whatever. Listen, it is what it is. Is it good? Have you used it?
I started out with that app before I learned how to read ingredients. So it was helpful to a certain point, but it's not 100% accurate. So the best thing is to really just learn to read some basic food ingredients. I mean, if there's too many ingredients, you can already just put it back on the shelf. That's an automatic. If there's things you can't pronounce, put it back. The least ingredients possible is the healthiest.
You spend a lot of time in the supermarket, I guess.
I mean, I'm quick. Now I'm quick.
Because you know already what to get.
But now I'm quick. Yeah, I know what to
What
get.
was
I know
that?
what's brands.
So what were those first couple of trips to the supermarket when you went through the rabbit hole and you're like,
now
we need to do shopping for the week.
I threw out half my kitchen. I mean, everything in my kitchen was processed. Everything had added sugars, seed oils. I couldn't believe how many seed oils were in almost everything in my kitchen had a seed oil. Growing up, my mom used the seed oil, vegetable oil. She fried eggs for me on vegetable oil.
Of course.
No, it's a no-go. We have to cut that out.
How's Gene adjusting to this?
I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
Is the husband supportive?
So at home, I mean, it's just the food that I buy, and it's okay. He's very into healthy food. He actually knew a thing or two before he met me. But when we're out and sometimes he wants Skittles or gummy bears or a Red Bull, I do say something and he hears it from me, but, in one ear out the other. But
that's like a cheat. That's like a real quick thing.
I guess.
It goes back to what we were talking. I think today it's like, look, you should do the best you can. You're not going to avoid it. No matter what.
No.
Like you said, we would have to own our own farms, our own cattle, our own.
But we could avoid seed oils. We could avoid non-organic food as much as
Sometimes you just
can.
want that Red Bull.
I know. Sometimes I want it too. And it's like, okay, I gotta have my Red Bull. But then I'm like, oh, I feel bad. I'm like, what did I just put into my body? Because I'm training my mind. It's a transformation. I'm training myself, my mind to say, oh, I have to eat foods that love me.
Yeah.
So it takes time, and I'm still like in the beginning of the journey, but that's what it is. It's a journey. It's not a destination.
Right.
If I would have had kids 10 years ago when I just graduated nursing school, they would have been vaccinated, up to date. Like I would have never even second guessed. I ended up second guessing, and it just led me from one thing to another. And then before I knew it, my whole life changed. And my husband looked at me and he's like, who am I with? What happened? He's like,
she used to like Skittles.
We used to like Skittles and McDonald's. And now it's like, nope.
Is he coming to terms with it?
Yeah. No, I mean, he gets that the goal is to be healthier. And, I've actually take him with me when I go to the sauna place, the infrared sauna. He comes with me now.
I think it's a positive journey. I mean,
it is. Yeah. It's definitely a positive journey.
It might be a little annoying. There's certain things you can't have. Or
yes,
whatever,
I'm strict. And sometimes when we go out, I'll say I can't have this. Or
can you control that in the restaurant when you go out?
I look at the menu and for instance, I wouldn't order like farm-raised fish. That's a thing for me.
Really?
I won't order chicken if I'm in a restaurant because I know it's most likely not organic.
What would be organic?
I would rather eat beef at a restaurant than chicken.
Okay.
Just the way that, they're now injecting all these chickens, and there's just so many of them in one area, and they're not the size they should be. They should really be like this small, but they're like this big now. So I'll try to avoid chicken when we go out. I'll try to get like steak or something. And vegetables.
What's wrong with farm-raised fish if it's sustainably farmed?
The fact that they're still very close to each other, and they're being fed a particular diet that's not exactly healthy. And they do. Fish in general has a lot of parasites. Fish and pork. So those things you have to be just extra careful with.
Sushi,
yes. So I was a sushi lover, and my mercury was elevated. So what did the holistic doctor tell me? To stop eating sushi.
But they say the mercury is actually elevated in wild fish as opposed to.
Well, mercury comes from tuna, mostly tuna and some other fishes, which I was eating, when I go to sushi and stuff. I hope their fish is wild, right?
But
most
you have
likely
no
it's
control over that.
Unless you go to like top notch omakase places.
I mean, that's typically where like Gene and I were going. We weren't going to like the small mom and pop shops, but even with that, wild fish does have mercury, of course, and you have to limit it. Absolutely. And then rice, you're gonna have high arsenic with the rice, which I had also high arsenic.
I mean,
from eating sushi a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to soak your rice. It's very important. You can get rid of majority of the arsenic if you soak it properly, but if you just like rinse it and put it to boil, you're ingesting all of it, unfortunately. But, you know, there's families who from day one, like prioritize nutrition. Like they'll say, we'll do whatever, but nutrition will always be like our ground thing that we're going to focus on. So like those families, they're very strict. Like they're not going to give candy to the kids. I'm one of those families, I could say. Like I don't keep candy or anything artificial at home. I don't even bring it into the house.
Again, if it's not in the house, you're not going to be tempted.
The first few years, I'd say 3-4 years of a child's life are vital. Like what you put in is going to be their long-term health, like years later. So that's why in the first few years, like when they're toddlers, from baby to toddlers, probably until they're like, until, you know, they tell you, no, mom, I want this, until they start asking for stuff. You can get away with it and you can implement whatever you think is safe and nutritious for them to eat and set up their immunity for lifelong. You could do that. And I know it's hard. I know it's easier to just give a pouch or something else or snacks and chips. I know it's easier and I know it's more accessible. But if you really focus on the gut health and the child's diet the first few years, you're going to have a much healthier child and adult down the road versus when you don't do that. There's definitely like alternatives that you can give your kids that are still sweet but healthier, like snack-wise versus...
What do you do?
I do a lot of nut butters. I do nut butters with like apples. I make my own gummy bears for my kids. I make my own goldfish. We do a lot of freezer dried fruit.
Okay.
That, but the goldfish I make myself. I don't buy the store bought.
You have a mold for the goldfish?
Yeah, of course. And for the gummies, the little silicone molds. Yeah. I make vitamins for them, like gummy vitamins, and different snacks. What else?
Can you share what you put in the gummies?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do strawberry and beets. So I'll cook the beets and I'll blend them, add strawberries, blend it together. I'll add some elderberry into it or whichever vitamins I want, and then some gelatin. Mix it, and then you place them into the molds and you put it into the fridge.
And they're not as sweet though, but they're still good.
I put honey. I put 1 tablespoon of honey into that mix, and they're a little bit of sweet. They're a little sour because of the elderberry.
I gotta try that. That sounds cool.
I mean, yeah, I can help you. I'll send you the recipe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do vitamins work?
Depends which ones. It has to be the proper brand. You have to make sure you need that vitamin, that your body's not excreting it, because if your body doesn't need it, it's going to go straight through.
Right, that's what I hear.
And liposomal. If it's a liposomal liquid vitamin, then it's going to go where it needs to go. Otherwise, it's just going to
What is a liposomal?
It basically gets absorbed better.
It has to be on the bottle?
Liposomal, yeah. It's like this sticky, like honey kind of sticky substance. So the vitamins are kind of like gooey. They're liquid, and they help go through your entire system, which makes sure that you get it.
What do you think about multivitamins?
Not a fan. Not a fan.
I'm about to use the situation. I'm like, let me pull out my multivitamins and be like, what do you think about this?
I mean,
it just seems easier. That's all it is. Than taking 100 different pills.
But you may not need all of that. And like this multivitamin, I like liquid. Like
vitamins. Jelly, the jelly tubs or whatever. The tablets.
Or what I was just talking about. Yeah. And specific stuff, because we don't need everything.
Right.
You have to check.
A lot of people, I think, go online, they research all this stuff, and I think the worst thing you can absolutely do is if you have a pain somewhere and Googling it, right? It's like 100% you're sick, you're dying.
Self-diagnosis.
Like you start Googling, it's like, what is this pain in my back? It's like, dude, cancer, dying. Yeah. Like, so in the same sense, you start looking at like, oh, what vitamins? Well, if you have brittle hair and you have this, you have to take this vitamin. Oh, if you have this, you have to take this vitamin. And that's why I came with like multivitamin kind of solves these problems. But the reason I asked is because I heard that they're not the best. And in regards to, you're not really getting what you should be getting from a single.
Yeah, it's most likely just coming through, you're flushing it out. Most likely. Not all of it, but... Yeah. You may not need it. You may need something else more specific. And it's just, I mean, it's like all in one.
Start with a blood test, basically.
Yeah. Depending on what your symptoms are. But basically, you could do blood tests. There's numerous other tests that you can do through urine, through stool, depending on the situation. But you have to start somewhere. Yeah, if you're having symptoms, absolutely. Because these little symptoms are clues as to what could happen if you don't take care of them. They're trying to tell you something on a cellular level, so we have to really pay attention to them and not just ignore them.
You focus a lot on the gut, right? Because a lot stems from that. So when people come to you with different disorders like IBS or bloating, is there anything that's a common factor that's causing that, or something that you particularly prescribe?
They usually have a lot of gut dysbiosis. There's an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and there's very little good bacteria. Their gut is all messed up. They have high inflammatory markers. One of the main things is diet. Diet is always going to be a factor in those cases. We have to adjust the diet and supplements. There's a lot of gut healing supplements, even aloe, anything from licorice root, marshmallow root, slippery elm. Those are all great herbs to take to heal the gut. And diet, that's going to be a main factor. Elimination diet, eliminating dairy and gluten is going to be a big one in order to heal the gut. But it does get better, and we could put symptoms at bay. I mean, I'm not saying you're not going to show up positive on a test for IBS. You still will, but your symptoms they're not going to be as bad.
What is it? So like gluten always comes up, right?
Yeah.
It's like what are the things that people are complaining about when you see that this is a gluten problem or whatever?
I mean, indigestion, bloating, diarrhea, and everything. Anything that's making them upset.
And gluten is in what?
Almost everything. Pasta, bread,
All the
anything
good stuff.
processed, cookies. I mean, it would have to say gluten-free for you to know that there's
a lot
no
of products
gluten.
now say gluten-free. Can we trust the labels?
We can trust the labels, but just because it's gluten-free doesn't also mean that it's good. So there are some things that are gluten-free that you have to stay away from, like, different flours that they use instead of the regular flour. You just have to be mindful of all of this. There's a lot of things changing.
That's the thing. So coming back to the ketogenic diet, when I tried it, I started looking for different recipes and stuff. It's like, what if I want something sweet? Oh, no problem. You want brownies? Here's how you're gonna make them.
Mm-hmm.
You add this, and this, and then like 2 different sugar. Basically, either it's stevia. I know some of them are better than others, but
You can do
so wait a
date
second.
sugar.
So what you're adding basically chemicals, and I was like, wait, but can we just do it without the sugar? Like, can we just like can you make jam without sugar?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
So that's
I mean,
yes.
I've done it. I mean, I try to avoid it at all costs for my
Yeah.
kids. I mean, you can't completely avoid it,
Right.
but I definitely try to. I mean, I'll let them have cake on their birthdays, or if they go to birthday parties. I mean, definitely, I'm not going to be the only mom prohibiting my child from eating cake. But I'm not happy about it,
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's happening. But I've done it. I've cut things out of recipes, and I've made my own concoctions, and yeah, maybe they weren't great tasting, but at least I knew.
But you feel
that-
good about it, right?
I feel good about it. At least I know that it was like the raw milk, not the pasteurized milk, or it was the date sugar, not the processed sugar. So
What's wrong with pasteurized milk? Isn't it for a reason pasteurized that it eliminates
Bacteria.
bacteria?
Possible bacteria.
Yeah.
yes, that's why they're pasteurizing to kill off all the bacteria. But the problem is that while they're killing off all of the bad bacteria, they're also killing off everything good in milk. So after that, there's basically no benefit to milk other than it's like sugar water. And the cows, they're getting injected with hormones and different medications. And that's what you're ultimately getting with pasteurized milk. I'm not a big dairy person in general, but when we do dairy, it's raw.
The way I learned that there's sugar in milk was when I was doing the ketogenic diet.
Mm-mm.
I was doing the diet, and I never liked milk. I was never a milk person.
Yeah.
But my kids drink milk. They like it. We get that grass-fed from Trader Joe thing. We do as best as we can.
Yeah.
And there's always milk in the house. And I remember I came home from a workout, and I'm just craving milk. And I'm like, I've never wanted milk in my entire life. So I drank like a whole cup of milk. The next day, I'm with my buddy going to the gym. I'm like, dude, I don't know what happened, but yesterday I was just craving milk. He's like, yeah, because your body needed the sugar. I'm like, what sugar is in milk? He goes, go take a look. You turn it around, there's 16 grams of whatever of sugar in milk.
I mean, it has a little sweet taste, but
Yeah, it does have sweet.
I think I figured out there's a lot of sugar in milk when I tried my own breast milk, and I was like, wow, this is really sweet and it's natural. So that's when I realized there's a lot of sugar in milk.
And that's because they're just naturally like that. It's
Were
not
you
because you
consuming any
ate too much sugar.
No, I wasn't eating sugar at all. Me and sugar are
So
not
you were
friends.
producing real sugar yourself.
Pretty much. Yeah. But they don't tell you to pasteurize your breast milk,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the
So,
same time, the idea, I think there was a big story about like, why are we drinking cow's milk?
We actually don't.
Why don't you
need
drink?
to,
Why
yeah.
don't you
No.
drink cats?
Yeah.
Why don't you drink cat's milk or dog's milk? Why
How
is
about-
it cows?
Or camels.
Right. With the cows, well, I heard a counter argument. It was because, well, the cat will not produce that much milk, first of all. Second of all,
Yes.
it tastes different,
And they're just weird.
Those who tried. Yeah, it's just a little weird. But yeah, I mean, listen. And then I think as we're talking about this, we changed the way we look at things. I saw a video recently, like someone was milking a cow, and a girl was walking by with a coffee, and the other girl is milking the cow, and she's like, "Oh, can you give me some milk?" And she's like, and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, I wouldn't want to drink that, but like my reaction is already wrong. It's like, this is how we used to do it.
This is natural.
Right.
This is how it's still done. It's just you get it carded.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I want to drink that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when I drink raw milk, I forget that I'm drinking raw milk. Like, but it tastes great. I can tell by the taste, but I forget that it's raw, not pasteurized. Like, that thought just leaves my mind. It's not a worry in my head that something's going to happen. I trust the farmers where I get it from. I make sure it's like a good, decent farm. Everything's clean there.
You go all the way to the farm to get it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It seems like a second job.
It's fun for me, though. I enjoy it.
So what, you have to keep it frozen immediately, or how does that work?
I put one bottle. I get glass bottles to put in the fridge, and then I get the plastic bottles to put in the freezer. And, you know, they'll just lay them there, and I'll use them slowly because we don't really drink that much milk.
Right.
But
They spoil too, no?
They spoil
Yeah.
too, yeah. With an opening, you probably have a week for the milk, for the raw milk, versus the pasteurized that lasts longer.
Did you drink milk when you were a kid?
Yeah. Well, I always felt a little funny after that, so so I don't really mess. I mean, I could probably do it more now than before, but I don't.
It's interesting when you learn, so you went through your whole journey and you learn stuff about yourself, and then you're like, oh, this is why it's happening. But similarly, like I feel it myself, man. Like I enjoy everything. I love to eat. That's not the point. But I'm seeing that soon as I cut out carbs, soon as I cut out sugar, I feel like I just deflate. It's not about losing the weight. I just don't feel heavy. I feel like I can get up, I can do whatever I want, I can go run, and you just feel great. But of course, and then like the other day, I was doing it for like this past week, and then the other day my wife made what did she make? She made pasta Alfredo. Oh man, that just knocked me out, man.
Makes you sleepy,
Food
right?
makes you
Yeah.
sleepy, right?
Yeah.
After, yeah.
It's all
Well,
the
it knocked me
carbs.
out, and then I just felt not good for the next day or whatever.
The carbs, it fills you up, it kind of inflames you, makes you
Yeah.
tired. I mean, that's just what you're getting with like eating those kinds of things.
I think a lot of people think or live with it as if it's supposed to be normal.
That's
They're
what we've
like,
gotten
well, that's
used
what you
to.
do when you eat pasta. It just happens. What are you gonna stop eating pasta?
Yes.
Like, no, I mean, but you know what I
But,
mean? Like,
you
that's
know-
how people are living, right?
Yes, just like they're used to the idea of going to a doctor and getting a prescription for problem X, Y, and Z. It's become the norm. And I've had some patients where I told them, okay, this is the protocol I'm going to give you. You have to take these steps. There's multiple supplements involved, multiple, procedures. And it's overwhelming. And they're just like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like,
It's very hard to get them to
I'd rather
commit.
take the pill. I'd rather take the antibiotic. And I'm okay with that. If that's the route you want to take, I'm going to be supportive no matter what. We can take that pill and we can take a probiotic to counter off the effects. We could do that. So again, everyone's different. They all have their own, what they're used to. But
I think most people are used to a certain lifestyle and they don't want to let it go. And they will take that route because, I mean, I know plenty of people that have diabetes, right? And it's like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Oh, I'm not feeling well. Go to the doctor, increase the dosage. A couple of days later, you see them sitting with donuts on the desk and it's like, don't you have diabetes and you weren't feeling bad? Yeah, I got a new prescription. I can eat what I want. But that's not the case because if you think about what's going really on behind that is you're just putting a Band-Aid on a problem.
of course. And then there's going to be another problem that evolves from that. Everything's connected. The body is one. Everything's connected. And you have to just treat everything as a process, like as a whole versus separate, medications for different dysfunctions that are going on.
It's interesting how whatever the problem is, I guess the traditional approach would be, here's a pill. Oh, that pill didn't work. Here's another pill. Oh, that pill didn't work. No problem. We got another pill for you. Meaning that one pill can't help everybody, but it kind of feels like it's treated that way. It's like everybody's an individual. We're all different. We all have different bacterial in our guts, and we're all different. So how can every single person take this pill and be okay and, resolve the issue?
That's the same question for vaccine, right? How
Yeah,
can
true.
every single child get the exact same vaccine when their bodies are different?
Yeah.
Composition is different on every single level, and we're treating them as the same. We're not altering dosages. We're not doing anything. That's the problem with this medicine. It's not individualized, and we're not looking at the people for who they are. We're just throwing things at them to make a profit, and that's a problem.
So when people come to you, right, and you prescribe them, you adjust their nutrition, I assume, right? You tell them what to eat, what not to eat.
Yeah, I don't
That's right.
prescribe. As a nurse, I don't prescribe.
Right.
I suggest, recommend.
Right, recommend.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you kind of structure their diet, right? Like
Yes.
what you should be doing.
I'll help them with diet. I'll tell them what to eliminate, what to avoid. We'll usually do an elimination diet. And then later on, we'll slowly bring things in. But we take away a lot of the inflammatory foods, nightshade vegetables, dairy, gluten, acidic things, and we try to work from that, and then we adjust as we go.
So how do you know? How do you follow them or track them? Know that they're actually adhering to your suggestion?
I mean, it's based on what they tell me when we meet next time. Let's be honest. Do we really all do exactly as our doctor or practitioner suggests?
Absolutely not.
Sometimes we'll skip a dose of antibiotic when we know we shouldn't. We'll forget, right? Sometimes they're going to tell us, go to the gym 3 times a week, and we're going to go once. I understand everyone tries their best, and they tell me, my patients tell me, like, okay, I didn't do this, but I did this and I did that instead of this. And that's cool with me. Whatever you did, as long as you did something and you feel better, then something's working, something helped.
And it's when it's lifestyle, nutrition based change, I think people, as you said, are very like reticent, or they'll fall back into their old habits because that's where the comfort zone is. That's what they miss. So it takes a lot of discipline on the patients themselves. And
it's hard. And I went through that myself because I used to eat all sorts of junk food, McDonald's, Chinese food, everything had seed oils. I was drinking Red Bulls, Snickers, Kit Kats, you name it. I had Tide as my detergent, Windex, chemicals.
No Tide, no good.
No good, no. But I had, every single thing that I now consider toxic and tell my patients to avoid, I was using at a certain point. And little by little, I just kept shedding those layers off. And I just, go more and more. Now it's like air filters, water filters, all these different things. There's a lot to it. But I always tell my patients, let's start slow. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not get overwhelmed. Even a little bit of progress is better than what it was already.
I would do anything not to take pills. That's I don't know, that's what changes me. So the moment...
Are you disciplined?
It puts me in that position. I don't want to do it. I don't like anything. Don't get me wrong. All I want to do is just eat, chill, and just sleep on the couch and not do anything. But when you come up to a problem, and unfortunately, most of us, that's when we act, when we have a problem, not preemptively. You come up to a problem and you're like, okay, well, here's Mark. Here's you got your diabetes pills, and here's your blood pressure medication. And you're like, I don't want to. In my case, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not. I know the path. I have family or whatever, people I know who are on several different medications, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, because that medication is also individual. You would have to find the perfect one that works for you, and until you do, you're gonna have all these side effects. And in my mind, that's how I look at it. I'm like, okay, so how do I fix the sugar problem? Well, stop eating crap, and to me, yeah, bro, it's easier not to do it than go through the whole, because I feel like the moment you go on a pill that is constant, like something that's part of your life now, I feel like it's a gateway. It's going to open up a bunch of things. It's like, oh, now you get taking the pill, and now you're going to pee too much. Oh, no problem. We're going to give you this other pill so you don't pee too much.
Pretty much.
It's like, oh, but now you're getting heartburn. No problem, bro. We got one for the heartburn,
That's exactly what it is. And majority of my patients, they are 65 and older in my Western practice. And they have all of these diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure. They have issues with their vision, like glaucoma, because of the diabetes. Majority of them have depression.
Did you hear about diabetes linked to Alzheimer's now? They're calling it type 3 diabetes.
Yeah, there's something going on.
I saw some guy on Tucker Carlson. He was saying that it's actually completely reversible. You can reverse Alzheimer's.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know. There's an argument. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I'm saying it makes sense when he was talking about it, at least.
There's things you can do on a cellular level, on a metabolic level, to make symptoms better. And I'm not going to say 100% you can reverse it, because I haven't done that with patients yet. But it definitely could be true. It definitely could be true that you could reverse some conditions with supplements and diet and a lifestyle change.
So some of the most common things that are pain management is what pills are prescribed, right?
Yes.
And it's a chronic thing you have to keep taking. And what's the holistic approach to pain management?
Well, firstly, we have to figure out what's the root cause of the pain. Depending on the root cause, there's different approaches, but a lot of it, believe it or not, could be emotional. The body definitely keeps score. And if you have trauma that's not been processed yet, it could turn into disease and pain.
Psychological trauma?
Yeah. Just trauma that you went through in your life, things you overcame that you didn't fully digest and get over, because you just kind of just store it in your head and you try to move on to forget about it. But it keeps score. Your body keeps score, and these things could make you sick. So a lot of the times when I'm working with clients, we also include like an emotional aspect into it. We'll do some tapping techniques and we'll try to work through emotions. If I need to, I'll refer them to, a specific therapist, like holistic therapists. But pain could definitely, trauma could definitely increase pain. But then there's also things you can do for pain, like meditation. You can take certain herbs, certain supplements. You can do different machines. You can try, cold plunging. There's so many different avenues. Yoga, mindfulness. Like
You do the cold plunging?
I personally don't. It's very hard
I
for
just
me.
did it, and
You did it?
I was so like, I'm so not into that, but
Yeah.
that was the most amazing thing.
So, but you're not into it?
I was like, I didn't want that experience. I don't want to be like shocked cold when I just come out of a hot sun,
Okay.
but that was amazing.
I've been meaning to try it.
It's
just looks
amazing.
So
cool.
you should read the Iceman Hoff method. He has a book on his method. And you can
Say
start
that again?
Iceman Hoff. So he's the one that created the whole cold plunging. It was
I thought it was Joe Rogan.
No.
so that was his thing. That's what he's famous for. But there's actually, you can start in the shower. When you take a shower, a few minutes before you exit out of the shower, turn the water cold. Just run your face in the cold water. That's a lot, and you're gonna get used to it, and then you can build up your tolerance with time.
It's not as cool though.
What
I mean,
what happens to you on the subatomic, like on a cellular level? What happens? Like, why is it so good for you?
I mean, I think it's just retraining your system. It's such a big shock that
It puts your body into shock.
Yeah, it puts your body into shock, but it's a good shock. It's like
You feel like, ooh,
it's a good response. It kind of wakes everything
Yeah,
up
it wakes
inside of
everything
you,
up, yeah.
and then it also increases your immunity. And a lot of people are swearing by it. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people in the holistic community. They're doing these cold plunges. They have these big things in their backyards, and they're just going right into them.
So you mentioned the sauna. What are the benefits that you see? That you
Infrared
get from
sauna.
it? Is it just infrared or is any sauna?
No, I mean I do infrared sauna, but regular sauna is good too. I mean the benefits are that you're detoxing. You're getting rid of toxins from your body.
Yeah.
And I suggest that when you're doing sauna, you should definitely take a binder afterwards to bind all the heavy.
What's a binder?
A binder is something that it's a supplement. It's like
okay.
a pill. And what it does is it binds all of the toxins in your body. So especially after sauna, the toxins now resurfaced.
Okay.
You want to trap them and bind them so they come out instead of spreading to other areas of your body or your brain.
And how often do you do it?
Sauna?
Yeah.
Every other day.
Really?
Yeah.
you go to that place that we name dropped before.
I go to the place,
Yeah.
but when we're going to move into the house, I'm going to purchase a sauna of my own. And I'm going to have it in my bathroom and use it every day. And I'm going to get the kids to use it too.
And the cold plunge.
No,
No?
the cold plunge
That's
for
only for
now.
Gene.
For now, I'm going to, take
Yeah.
a seat back on that one. But I actually feel super energized when I come out of that sauna.
Really?
I mean, it's 40 minutes. It's like, it feels like torture.
dry, obviously dry.
Yeah,
sauna.
I mean, you're sweating, it's really hot in there. And the place where I go, they put the stones also. What are those stones called? The Himalayan. They put the Himalayan salt. So that also helps to detox. And I feel so energized after. I feel like I'm ready to take over the day.
My mind is like thinking, how do you combine these two so you could save time? Can you install the red lamp into
Yes,
the sauna?
yes,
Yeah, they
you
do.
do.
They have that.
So you could just
Okay.
do like a regular sauna and you
Yeah.
can install the red lamps into it and like save money instead of getting a red light.
Yeah.
Since
sauna.
I'm plugging everything now, the World Spa in Brooklyn,
Where else
have
they
that.
have it there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Is there any benefits to steam rooms?
Sure, of course. It's also helping you sweat, detox.
We went to a place and they had a steam room and a sauna. Like, so the sauna had the more drier, I guess, right?
Right.
The moment I walked into the steam room, bro, I just
Feel
couldn't
better?
stop. No, I couldn't stop coughing. I don't know what it
Oh.
was. I couldn't take breath.
Probably mold.
No. Sometimes what they do is they'll put like eucalyptus or something into
Yeah.
it, which opens up your your pores and respiratory, and that might just be like a big inhale, and it's going to make you want to cough. So
Maybe. I
that
don't
happens
know.
to me too. Sometimes it's like a lot.
But it was only in the steam room. It wasn't in the sauna. The sauna was fine.
Correct, because the steam is creating all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
fog, and you're inhaling it, and
I like steam better than sauna.
it's
We're glad.
easier to
So
tolerate.
It's easier to tolerate.
Yeah, it's easier to tolerate. It's easier to stay there longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about holistic medicine?
That
Can I answer that?
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
It's voodoo magic.
Voodoo
bro.
magic.
Voodoo
You know what I mean?
magic. I
It's
say
like-
woohoo.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
like take this tea with honey and then sing a song. But I think that's what people probably think, right?
Yeah, initially they're like, oh, it's not helpful, it's a waste of money, or it's too expensive, or it's not going to work. There's just different things, but it's not woohoo. It's not voodoo.
It's funny how you said, though, that, it's like, oh, it's a money scheme. It's like all these pills, they're just, but you don't look at the other side and think the same way,
Well, because when insurance is covering it,
Yeah.
you're not counting how much money the medication.
right.
You don't even know. You're
You
just
don't
going
know,
to pharmacy. You're giving them a script, or it's getting sent electronically, and you're walking out with it.
Yeah.
You don't know what insurance paid for it or how much the pharmacy made. Usually, it's a lot.
So what have you heard? That's just that it's like,
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's not effective. It's for crazy people, or there's no science to back it up, which is not true. There's plenty of science to back up holistic health. Everything is done based on research. There are numerous studies on different things in the holistic world. And that it's either like the opposite side of the spectrum of Western world. As much as opposite as it is, it doesn't mean that you can't work together. It doesn't mean that the definition of disease is not there. It's still there. We're still sharing that. We're just going about treatment differently.
I think it's very ignorant to say that, actually.
What?
Like that part. Like, how do we get here? We didn't make pills for how many years, for the amounts of hundreds of years or thousands of years that we were, there was things before that,
Right.
right? So we're only like the whole big pharma thing and everything. That's pretty recent in human history. So like
Mhm.
people did get better at some point without an Advil. You know what I mean?
Or died.
Well, yeah. But some of them survived. That's why we are here. We are the winners, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, we have definitely stemmed away from our roots, as I mentioned before. And I just like to bring back some of those things. And like, we can coexist with big pharma. It doesn't
Of
have
course,
to be
yeah.
us or them. It doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be like that. We can work together, and Western physicians could be a little bit more educated on some supplements and some more natural remedies, and maybe look into diet. Like, that could be part of their curriculum, but it's not.
It's not right.
It's just how to prescribe. That's it. Oh, you have a symptom? Here's a prescription. That's it. That's the whole Rockefeller base of science. Let's
Right.
just
It's-
prescribe.
It's
That's it.
you just need to realign incentives,
Yeah.
and the system will adjust
Mhm.
itself.
Yeah. But nowadays is that a lot of Western physicians are completely opposed to holistic. Like, when I tell Western physicians that I went to a holistic doctor for my daughter's eczema, they looked at me like,
Right.
what?
You're a kook.
Yeah, why would you do that? I just went recently. I had some, gastro symptoms, so I went to get endoscopy, and I met with a very famous Brooklyn gastroenterologist,
Mhm.
and he's also a professor in the college. And I left the office with a handout from him on why supplements are bad for you.
Oh,
And, the whole idea of my practice and what I do is based on supplements, and he completely just disregards them. And there's just
Because of his training or
because of his training, and it's just like
secure, like insurance, probably.
possibly, but he just thinks they're not effective and they're not properly tested. They're not approved by FDA. So he doesn't find them to be effective. He basically told me, like, how can we prove that this supplement is even going to help and not harm?
Take a test before and after.
But you also have to know which supplements you're buying, right? You're not going to
Right.
just go on Amazon and get like a
I mean,
random
there's
supplement.
ways to test it if you want to do a lab thing.
You could, absolutely. You could. But the point is just some doctors completely disregard it. Like, it just, like,
Well,
it
I guess
doesn't
isn't that
exist.
what Casey Means was talking about? Was it Casey Means?
yes.
Right? She was talking about that, right? The fact that the standard training, they don't even look
No.
at the whole body. They look at, there's a
Separate.
problem, fix it like this. There's a problem, fix it like that. Nobody looks or asks, why is it a problem in the first place?
No. Yeah, nobody does that. The system is absolutely corrupt. And if we can just kind of meet in the middle, that would be awesome too. Because it doesn't have to
Yeah,
be.
because
like,
there's nothing, there's also good that came from it, obviously.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like the polio vaccine.
It's the only one, huh?
That's the only one I know of.
It depends on what you read and what sources. But I did read a book called Dissolving Illusions. And in this book, it basically indicates that majority of the diseases that we now have vaccines for were basically eradicated before the vaccine ever came out. And it kind of supports the whole theory. Like, when COVID first came out, let's be honest, we had a lot of hospitalizations, we had a lot of deaths. That's because the people who were weak, who had medical conditions,
Comorbidities, right?
yeah, it took them down because they were already weak, but like the stronger people survived. So that's going to happen with any new threat. The weak will, go, and the strong will survive. So before the vaccine even, came out, people were already getting better just because we were already exposed to the strain and our bodies kind of adapted to it.
Building immunity.
Exactly. So, and let's be real. Did the vaccine actually prevent anyone from getting COVID? I mean, it didn't.
Well,
right?
no.
It didn't. So,
But that's possibly, this is why I feel like I was fooled into it, honestly.
You did the vaccine.
I did it, and I was one of the people that actually was talking to somebody who was against it, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're putting people in danger." And blah blah. Like, I was sold, you know.
Oh, because of like herd immunity.
Yeah. Well, no, I was sold because I figured, listen, we're meeting up with parents. Our parents are older. We should be vaccinated. You know what I mean? Like, I was sold on it, but I can't completely dismiss it as well because I know there were people that had a lot of issues, and if maybe the vaccine helped, great. Also, the way I got sick, I mean, it just like I felt like I was a fool. Honestly, I felt fooled. I was like, this is it.
You got sick afterwards? Or
I got
before?
sick a year after I got the vaccine.
Well, the kind of argument would be like, well, that's why you didn't feel that bad.
The strain already got lighter.
Exactly. The strain got lighter. It could have been the vaccine, but it was a 24-hour thing. Like, I felt like crap, but for 24 hours. And then I was like, okay, I'm good.
I mean, everyone's immune system is different. So we really can't make such like comparisons.
I feel like COVID, in a way, and this is completely an opinion, I feel like everybody has different things that they talk about when they got sick, and I feel like it basically shows you your future. This is what you're gonna have a problem with. Like, when I got sick with COVID, I didn't have problems breathing. I didn't cough. I didn't nothing. I couldn't move my feet, my hip. I felt like walking up the stairs. It felt like I was a 95-year-old man. And I feel like, okay, I think that's what's going to be like you're going to have arthritis, bro. Like, I felt like it gives you like a thing, like, here's what's going to happen when you get older.
I mean, it's it makes you weak and have pain, and it's just like, it's part of the symptoms, but some people have post-COVID symptoms also, and that they're still battling.
There's long COVID also, right?
Yeah, and that you can't get rid of, and they're doing all these detoxes. It's a thing in the holistic community where, we just have all these like post effects after the actual disease, not necessarily even the vaccine.
Right. So there is an argument. It could have been a 24-hour thing because I did have the vaccine.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I
know you could argue it.
I'll stay quiet.
So this mind-body connection that you've mentioned, right? Like, you mentioned pain. You said a lot of it might stem from previous trauma.
Mm-hmm.
When you approach your patients, right, how does that factor in? And is there something specific that you analyze or look into? Like the mind over body approach as well?
We try to limit stress as much as possible because stress increases your cortisol levels. And that will have a big impact on your overall health. And we talk through emotions. A lot of people have a lot of emotional blockage and they don't even realize it. They're so focused on the actual body perspective of the symptoms that they forget like what's going on with the thoughts. And because negative thoughts, they do bring you down and they could make you sick. And our organs, they store emotions, like the liver, can store anger in your liver. So,
that's interesting, right?
Yeah, this is interesting. And this is actually, I believe it's part of Chinese medicine, that your organs hold emotions and you have to maybe detox. And a lot of times with different detoxing, and a detox is pretty much part of almost everyone's protocol, unless it's like a minor issue, but there's always something to work on in detox. When we're detoxing, a lot of emotions come up and people start being very sad. They could be moody. They could be irritable during that detox. So we definitely approach emotions and we try to understand where they're coming from on like an organ level, and then we can support those organs.
I think you need like that's a good plug for like everybody should have a buddy. You know what I mean? Like I have Alex, I call him, I'd be like, listen, my liver has some anger and I need to unload some crap. And he's like, yo, go at it. And we have a podcast on the phone that's not a podcast for like 2.5 hours.
Or you can take some liver supporting supplements like milk thistle, or...
Don't give him ideas. He's going to stop taking my calls.
No.
Go get some thistle instead.
Yeah, take some thistle, bro. Don't call me anymore.
Yeah.
But what, I'm sorry, you were saying, what can you do? Maybe I'll stop calling you, bro.
You can just, depending on what the emotions are, you can work on an organ. So
I get angry.
Then we're going to detox your liver. And we're going to
That's probably correct.
We're going to give you we're going to give you liver supporting supplements. Definitely stop drinking, absolutely. That's part of any protocol,
That's
right?
what I look like. I think like a normal person, Friday night is what I'm looking forward to. I worked all week. All right. But yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So stop drinking. Get some...
Stop drinking, get some sunlight, get some fresh water, get off your phone 2 hours before you go to sleep, start working out, start meditating. Stop living life in this high pace zone that like we New Yorkers love to do this. We're always in a rush.
Right.
Like we're just flying through life and the day and we're not processing anything going on. And that's actually a precursor for disease.
Well, that's how the system is
that'll
almost
get you
set up to
stressed.
have us in this rat wheel because we need to provide because everything's expensive.
I
So
know.
you're constantly on it, and then you don't have time to have long fixes. You need short fixes. So then you feed back into the system.
Yes.
You eat the stuff that it produces for you. Take medicine to cure the side effects of that, and it's like this
Pretty
ever-ending
much.
cycle.
It's like this revolving cycle
Right.
and it's a vicious cycle
Yeah.
and we don't know how to get out of it because this is the way society has placed us in today's state. That
Yeah.
just like we have to work to make money. I have to sit in that office for 8 hours a day or else I'm not going to get paid. And it's just like, it's a lot
Correct.
and you have no choice, but you can do the best of your ability. Like
Or
the
you could do
water,
the homestead.
food. Or you can do the
I
homestead.
think a lot of people are
yes.
opting in for that. No?
I mean, we
That-
really wanted to have chickens. I really wanted to
Yeah,
have
that'd be
chickens
great.
on our New Jersey property,
but
but
the code won't allow for
they
it.
didn't allow for it.
Yeah.
And I'm really upset about that. I'm bummed out. I really
I heard you
wanted
can get a very
chickens.
nice tax break if you label your land as farmland.
Possibly.
In terms of property taxes.
It's possible, but you have to be in specific codes, like in the state of New Jersey, to be able to have these chickens on property. But yeah, very upset about that. Definitely wanted some chickens.
Oh, you could grow stuff.
Yes, we are gonna grow stuff. Definitely. We're gonna have a little garden.
What kind of stuff are
gonna
you
have
going to
a
be growing?
greenhouse. I don't know, like zucchinis and dill, tomatoes.
You got to be also careful about how you're growing it.
Absolutely,
Right.
no pesticides.
No GMOs. So I heard you can't buy seeds that are not GMO, right? It's
You
very
could.
difficult.
You can. I bought
You
some.
Yeah.
could. You can actually get seeds imported from even like Europe if you want.
I was waiting for the
something.
apocalypse. I bought some seeds, bro.
Non-GMO.
And whatever they said, they're organic. Listen, at the point of the apocalypse, you're going to be eating whatever you have.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
do want to point out though, when you're going grocery shopping, just because it says the word organic, it doesn't mean it's good for you. You still have to check the ingredients and see what's in there because the organic sugar could be organic, but it's still, sugar.
What's the definition of organic? Like you mentioned, you focused a lot on labeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we really decipher that? Or we just look at, it says organic, so it's fine.
Well, this actually happened during COVID. A lot of the manufacturers that are producing all these organic fruits and vegetables, they got a little less
Stringent.
strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little less strict with the rules because nobody was checking up on them. So now it's like, who knows really like what you're getting. But organic produce does have more rules to attain than the non-organic produce. Whether or not they're keeping up these rules and doing things as protocol, that's a different question. But that's why I try to shop at like local farms, like at the Amish, for instance. Like I'll trust they have little farms. They're not mass producing. Like they have no reason to be spraying this stuff, So I trust them.
So as you might have heard, Robert Kennedy Jr. is nominated to head the Department of Health, and given his outspoken views on various topics like vaccination, pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, or what do you perceive or hoping for some changes that might occur as a result of that influence, if there is any?
I'm hoping that he's going to ban water fluoridation and pesticide use when it comes to food. I'm hoping he's going to ban industrial seed oils. He's going to improve the lunches in schools and make sure they're nutritious. Investigate specific vaccines. Also remove some vaccines from the schedule. And I hope he's going to fine companies heavily for putting poisonous ingredients into our food and just make the laws for all the food much tighter than they are, so that companies can actually change ingredients. And instead of eating potato chips that, we eat with seed oils, we can just have some avocado oil. Like I always go with my husband to the store and I'm like, okay, everything is perfect in this pack except for the seed oils. I'm like, is it really that hard to just use avocado oil? Like I never understand.
Do you make your own potato chips?
It's come to that, yeah. Pretty much. I mean, potato chips.
We're going to get a bunch of links for recipes after this.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do everything as natural as possible, but that's just because I'm home and I have some time. But
The fluoride argument, there's the statistics, and I don't know, right? You take it with a grain of salt in Buffalo, where they were fixing some of the piping. They removed fluoride from the water, and they say that the increase in childhood cavities has increased as a result of that. So the reasoning for fluoride is that to help childhood cavity issue, to to make their teeth healthier. What do you think about that? Do you think it's really not consistent, or?
I don't think it's consistent. I think that fluoride, well, I know fluoride is a neurotoxin. So if you have a child that's going to eat an entire tube of toothpaste,
It says it in the back of the toothpaste, I think. Contact
you're going to have to
poison or whatever.
contact poison control, and there's a very high chance that they may not make it. I mean, that's, it's never a good thing. I hide the toothpaste because I'm always scared of that. But I know in some states where they actually ban fluoride, like the water doesn't have enough fluoride, the doctors give kids supplements of fluoride. And this is just mind baffling to me because I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this?
Isn't that like a city thing though? Like if you're living in a rural area and you're getting your water from a well, is there fluoride in there?
I don't know.
Again, goes back to start your own farm.
Or your own farm, right?
Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you couldn't get a diagnosis. You went to the doctor and you had like side pain, right? And you couldn't get a diagnosis. They're also common to get misdiagnosed. What is your experience with that? And I've heard you had a recent misdiagnosis that was a big issue that you're trying to rectify now.
Yeah. So what happened to me a few years ago is I had a rash-looking spot on my stomach, and I went to a typical Western dermatologist, and they basically told me that it's just like some rosacea, and they prescribed me some cream and told me to go home. And just this past year and a half after giving birth to my second child, I started to not feel well. And I was like, something's going on. And I started, learning about all of this. And I'm like, okay, I have to go and get tested. And then when I did, I found out I had Lyme disease. And I started to think back, like, I never had a bullseye rash. I don't remember getting bit. Like, where did this come from? And then the only instance I can think back to was when I had that like rosacea on my stomach, and it was just one spot. It was about like this big. It was this big. And when I Googled it yesterday, it actually looks very similar to a bullseye rash, and it can easily be mistaken, but still,
for something else.
Yes. So if you come in with a rash like this, the doctor should have tested for Lyme. That should have been a consideration because it looks very similar to a bullseye rash. Okay. And I think that at that point, that's when the system kind of let me down, because had we caught it early several years ago, I would have just taken, doxycycline for a few weeks and it wouldn't have become chronic. And now I'm facing chronic Lyme, and it's such a scary thing, with all the research that I'm doing. And apparently it's not so easy to just get rid of it. What happens is that it's a bacteria, and the way that it's in your system, it's like a corkscrew, and it has a lot of biofilm around it. And it's almost impossible to penetrate this biofilm. And you have to, take a lot of different things and take a lot of different steps.
And it's a problem when it gets to your heart or something, right? Or something
you
like
can
that. I think I
have
heard
Lyme
something about that.
pericarditis as well. But the scariest thing that it affects is your nervous system. And, that's your emotions and pain,
right?
Weakness, everything from there, your memory. A lot of Lyme patients have brain fog. That's a big one for them.
I have that without Lyme disease.
Oh, I can recommend you some supplements later.
But I think that thing scares me so much. Like, I often say, I live next to a golf course, and I take my dogs there and whatever, And I've seen ticks. I brought ticks back home. I've seen ticks, and to me, it's the worst thing ever. Like, I could see a mouse and be fine. You see a tick, and you're like,
because you associate it with disease,
right?
And then, so I had that instance with the rash. And then a few years after that, I started getting joint pain in my knee. Like, my knee was so swollen, and it was just one knee. And I went again to a hospital. I went to Brookdale Hospital in New York, and I went to immunologists. They tested everything for me, and they did test for Lyme, but they ran the wrong test. And
how do you know that?
The Western blot test and the ELISA test, which are the two tests that we have in Western medicine, they're not 100% accurate. And actually, one of the only ways to get sometimes diagnosed with Lyme is if you go to a Lyme literate doctor and they're going to order specific tests, which is what I ended up doing. If I take one of those other tests that I took a few years ago, it's going to come up negative again. And a lot of people are misdiagnosed, and a lot of people carry this and don't know about it, similarly to me. And they can just have these minor symptoms here and there. But when we go to the doctor to address them, I mean, what did I get? I got some steroid cream, and then I got nothing.
What are some of the common symptoms
of Lyme? Joint pain, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, OCD. I mean, it takes over, and it just changes you. It really does. And it's scary. I mean, I'm starting to do a lot of intense therapy for Lyme. We just started the protocol with my doctor. But we're first actually going to tackle the mold that's in my system before we go on to Lyme, because Lyme should be last. It's very difficult. And when you wake the Lyme up, because it's dormant right now in my system, when I wake it up, I have to be prepared to what I'm going to be waking up and kind of,
So it's like a dormant bacteria?
Pretty much. And it comes out when you're at your weakest, at your lowest, when you're sick, when you start to age and get older. I'm pretty sure my father died because of Lyme pericarditis. He had chronic Lyme. He never went through treating it like the holistic route, or even the Western route. With the Western route, you have to be on antibiotics for a long time, probably like a year and a half. Not the 3 weeks in initial.
Which course are you taking? Obviously holistic, I assume?
I'm taking the holistic because I did go to the Western doctor initially. He was Western, but he was educated in holistic medicine as well. And he wanted to tackle the Lyme first, which I disagreed with. And he wanted to put me on antibiotics for about a year and a half. And my gut is already not in great shape, and I'm trying to build it up. And to have all those antibiotics thrown at me, I mean, I don't think I'll survive, first of all. The other step, which is the holistic route, yes, it's longer. Yes, it's more money. Yes, it's going to be a lot of work, like hyperbaric oxygen. My doctor wants me to sit in a hyperbaric oxygen tank once a week. That's a 2-hour procedure. You're sitting in a closed tank with like high pressure. And it's like, you feel it in your ears, but it helps oxygen to get into your brain, more oxygen to help some of those symptoms dissipate. And then they want me doing Rife therapy. They want me doing ionic foot baths.
What's a Rife therapy?
Rife therapy, it's like electromagnetic therapy. They tune it to a particular disease that you have. So there's different tunings, like frequency tunings to different diseases, and they set it to what you have, and you just lay there.
But it beams at you?
Yeah, your body's just taking in all the energy, and it's trying to move like viruses and bacteria out of your body. Like there's this new stuff with all this energy medicine. It's really coming to play right now. It's becoming more popular.
No, I mean, I'm listening to you, and I'm like thinking to myself, how many people actually know about any of this?
Yeah, I think
I think I watch a lot of stuff, like recently especially, and I've never heard like of what you just mentioned last. Yes, I've heard about frequency healing and stuff like that, but not in that sense.
Yeah,
and it's the fact that it's available. Like, how many people know that it's available?
Not a lot. And there's so many things available. And I think RFK also, Junior, he also mentioned that he wants hyperbaric oxygen tanks to be part of regular medicine covered by insurance, because I have to pay like $250 for this 2-hour session. And if you're doing it once a week, that's pretty expensive. It really is.
How do you feel? Like, you feel the difference?
Well, I'm going tomorrow for the first time. I was actually...
Documented.
Come back and let us know how you feel.
I was supposed to go this morning, but I was scared that if maybe I would have some like fatigue or something else, I wouldn't be able to make it here. So
wouldn't hear us.
Or that.
Yeah.
So I rescheduled it for tomorrow, but I'm going to keep you guys updated. But that's just like some of the things. Another thing is ozone therapy. So ozone therapy, they draw your blood, they put it through an ozone machine, basically giving more oxygen to that blood, and then they inject it back into you through either an IV, or they do injections, or there's other forms of administering ozone.
I heard about that. And I heard about that in terms of some people use it to, I think, regrow hair.
Ozone therapy?
You pull out the plasma or something like that, and then you re-inject it or something?
That's PRP.
That's PRP.
Okay.
That's PRP.
You heard about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's PRP.
Glad
I don't know how effective it is, but I've heard about it.
It's effective. My mom did it. Yeah, my mom did it. She was balding. My mom had an autoimmune condition, and she started losing hair and balding. And a lot of my friends are nurses, of course, and one of them ended up having this machine, the centrifuge machine at her house. So we just drew my mom's blood, and she ran the machine, and then we did like little injections on her scalp, and she has more hair now from one treatment. My mom also did ozone therapy for her condition, for her autoimmune condition, and it went away.
Do you have some kind of a plan of what else you need to do? What are the steps that are common to widen your knowledge, to get more expertise? Obviously, you have formal education in healthcare, but in terms of this holistic approach and everything that's associated with it, whatever the terms may be.
I continue to take more classes that go even deeper, but I also just learn a lot from dealing with some of the health issues on my own. That's how I learned a lot about eczema with my daughter having it, and then I was able to help so many people with their kids, and adults also. But it's with experience, and the more that I'm going to be exposed to this and the more patients I see, the deeper the dives I'm going to be taking and learning. So I expect in like 10 or 15 years, I'm going to be even versed in many more topics and able to help more patients. That's my goal.
How do people find you?
Social media, word of mouth. I mean, lately, everywhere I'm going, people introduce me as a holistic nurse. So it's like, oh, meet my friend Yuliya. She's a holistic nurse. And everyone just starts bombarding me with questions. And I do, answer a lot of questions. And
Consultation fee.
Consultations. But, I was doing it for free for a very long time. And people would just write me question after question after question because they trusted me, and it's great.
Yeah.
But there comes a point when you gotta start
100%,
charging,
100%.
and it happens at work, at parties, gatherings, and I welcome it. I like it. I like that people are asking.
It seems like you're so into it. This is like
I really like and enjoy this field of medicine to the point where I talk about it almost all day long because all I do is read books about it, talk about it with my patients. I mean, it got to a point where I started telling my Western patients holistic advice, and I just wanted to see how they would react to me telling them to adjust their diet versus taking medication. They love it. They're like, oh, you're so helpful. This is so nice. I mean, because we've came such a far, long way away from that. And I think it's time to start incorporating it and bringing it back. And we can still take the medications when necessary, but let's try to be a little bit more natural.
There are some people that take it to the extreme. I mean, I know people that are like, they have sniffles and it's like antibiotic now.
Yeah.
And I mean, that messes you up.
Yeah.
And when it's needed, it's needed. Don't get me wrong, but it messes you up.
It does. It increases your risk for depression and all kinds of diseases.
Yeah.
It makes your immunity weaker. It can cause gut dysbiosis. Then you have to take a lot of probiotics.
And again, thanks to antibiotics, we're not dying earlier. Penicillin was a big thing, but
it has to be obviously.
It has to be like a balance, yeah.
When you need it, you need it. There's no argument, But if you can get away without needing it, why not?
As far as the calling, Jordan Peterson. I mean, it's not a secret, but Jordan Peterson said it when something speaks to you and it drives your whole interest and attention. That's really what you should be pursuing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I was always pretty spiritual before. I always liked that realm of reality. Well, it was my reality. I always looked at it, and I was always attracted by yoga and Buddhists and monasteries and just spiritual alignment and manifesting and meditating. Different stones, chakra healing, sound bowls, I always liked all of that. And this falls very in line with it because that's the emotional aspect of holistic medicine. And then you have the actual body to mind function as well. So it just kind of came together for me. And there were times where I questioned myself, like, should I spend this money on taking another class?
Right.
Should I continue my education? Like, is this just a hobby or is this going to be lifelong? And I'm like, I think it's lifelong. Like, I think I'm going to stick to it and just go, full force into it because it really just interests me so much.
So what is a success story that you're proud of? A patient success story?
I had a patient who had debilitating psoriasis to the point where they couldn't walk. Like, it was on the soles of their feet. And they went to different dermatologists. They kept just getting prescribed either steroids or the doctor was attempting to put them on these injections that are very similar as chemotherapy on the body. They're immune modulating injections. And thankfully, my patient did not take that route. And we did a lot of gut support. We did a GI map. We, did a lot of gut healing support and things to kill the bad bacteria. We did ozone therapy treatments through the IV, and we did infrared light. And within 6 months, she went into remission. And it's been a year since, and she's still good.
Cleared up.
Everything's cleared up. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not, there's no possibility for it to come back, but at least we got it under control and we avoided
aggressive treatment.
It was very aggressive treatment, yeah. For someone who doesn't have cancer, even for someone who does have cancer, chemotherapy and radiation are very aggressive. But that medication was very similar to chemotherapy on the body. So definitely advise her to stay away from that.
Well, this has been an enlightening conversation, and I've learned more about you. Hope everyone enjoyed. And how do people get in contact with you?
I have a website. I also have a Facebook group directed for my patients where they can ask questions and interact and, feel part of a holistic community. And I also have Instagram, and you can always call or text me.
Wonderful. And we'll link that down below.
Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye, everybody.
Teaching us. Goodbye, Alex.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.